artists, and welcome back to Art at Home with Mrs. Kellogg, and happy spring. Yes, this is the first week of spring, so I thought it would be fun to create some spring-inspired art. Now, meet me over at my workspace because I want to tell you more about the art lesson and the art supplies you will need. This is an example of the spring-inspired art we are going to create for our art lesson today. Now let me tell you the supplies you will need for today's art lesson. You're going to need paper, and the size is up to you. Make sure that it's thick enough to apply watercolor to. You're going to need a pencil with an eraser, and I recommend having a black fine tip Sharpie marker. For this lesson, I'm going to use markers, but if you'd like to use colored pencils, you could use those. I'm going to be using some watercolor, so I want to make sure I have my brush, a cup that I can fill with water, my watercolor set, and a paper towel. I'm also going to be using some oil pastels in this art project. And the last thing you don't want to forget about is to put down your art mat or newspaper before you start your art project. And there's one more item you may want to add to your supply list, and that is an umbrella template. I've included a link to an umbrella template under this video on the Arts website. I am going to show you how to draw an umbrella in this video, but if you prefer to use the template, that's fine. Those are the materials you will need for today's project. Now would be a great time for you to pause the video, set up your workspace, and then gather all your art supplies and meet me back here, and we are going to start creating some spring-inspired art. Did you get your materials? Great, then let's get started. Before I start showing you how to draw the umbrella, I want to remind you that there is a link to a template below this video on the Arts website. So if you would like to print out that template, then you can cut out the umbrella top template and then glue it to your paper. Then you'll be ready for the next step, which will be drawing the body of the person, the puddle, and the grounding line. But in this part of the video, I'm going to show you how to draw an umbrella. So we're going to start with drawing, and we're going to really focus on line and shape. And the main focal point, which means the place that your eye is drawn to in your picture, is the umbrella. So that's what we're going to start with first. Besides the umbrella being a focal point in our drawing, there are some other important things to know about an umbrella before you start drawing it. So the first thing is umbrellas are an octagon-like shape. The second thing is there are 8 sections to an umbrella. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Another way of thinking about that is there are 8 parts. Now, depending on the angle of the umbrella, those parts may not be equal. Sometimes some artists will put a center point in and put 8 dots making a circle, and then they will divide that shape into 8 parts. But in this video, I'm going to show you how to draw a more dimensional and octagon-like umbrella. My first step in drawing my umbrella is to place the center point, and I've done that right here. Now, one thing I want you to be aware of, my dots are going to be darker and larger so you can see them. You do not need to make your dots very dark. I recommend making them a lot lighter so you can easily erase them or change them if you need to. My next step is to draw the 8 dots around that center point, but I want to start with 4 first because that's going to be a lot easier. So what I mean by that is I'm going to put 1, 2, and then 1, 2, and then I can fit the other dots inside of those. So to do that, I go to my center point. I'm going to go out here, make a dot. This will be like an invisible diagonal line. So I come across from here. I could even measure it out. So I do my best to have them approximately the same distance from the center point. Okay, now I'm going to have 2 more on either side, another diagonal line there. So again, I can use the dots that I've already drawn in from the center point as a measuring tool. Now I have my 4 dots drawn in. Now I need to put 4 more dots in between those. And I want you to notice when I connect the lines to the dots, they're going to be on a diagonal. For example, I want to put one like so. So they're actually going to work out to be outside of these 2 dots. Okay, so that's going to make it more octagon-like. So see how that is slightly outside these 2 dots. You could even test it with your pencil. That's easier. Okay, and I'm going to come across here, and I'm just going to put that in lightly and see if that's going to work for me. And you want to keep counting your dots to make sure that you have 8 in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See, I'm missing one there. And that's going to be 8. So look, this one's going to come out a little bit. So I'm going to put that slightly out. Okay, so now I'm going to start putting in those diagonal lines. My pencil's going to really help me. See, I'm going to be sketching like so. And you'll notice I draw a few lines to get the angle that I want. I didn't hit the dot, I might move that one in a little bit. So you may need to adjust as you're drawing. And again, you know, don't look at that as a mistake. That's the process of drawing. So now I just want to check my angles. Okay, so now I'm happy. I've got my octagon-like shape. Now I'm ready to draw my lines to create the 8 sections of the umbrella top. But I'm going to show you how to make this a little bit more dimensional. I want you to notice this. I'm going to draw a line, angle, and straight down. So see how you're drawing an angle at the top and then coming down. That's going to give the look or the illusion of a more dimensional triangle instead of, if you have the dot here and you just draw your lines in like that, that's fine, but it's not going to look as dimensional. I'm going to make my angle. See how coming out like here. And you may soften it as you're drawing. I start very angular and then I soften it. And I always recommend turning your paper as you work to get those angles. So now this one is going to come down like that. It's going to be a little bit more curved on this one. And see, this one comes here and bends down. You'll start to see some of the dimensionality at the top just by drawing in that little angle. See, I did it at the top there. Now I've got my umbrella sketched in. The next part is I'm going to draw the body of the person and the puddle and my grounding line. But before I show you that, now would be a great time for you to pause the video, draw your umbrella, then meet me back here and we will finish our spring inspired drawing. Did you finish drawing your umbrella top? Great, then let's get started. So now we're going to draw the body of the person. And as you can see, we're gonna use a lot of rectangles in this. One of the things that's important to keep in mind is that you can see the shoulders of the person. So you don't wanna make the body too long. And since the person's on an angle, I'm going to use some diagonal lines again. I'm going to curve the bottom, a little bit of their rain jacket. Now I'm going to draw the shorts. This is going this way, this will go this way. Line in the middle for the 2 legs. And then I want to curve the bottom. Now the legs. So I'm only going to see part of the legs because of the tall boots. Now the boot tops. I'm going to curve the boot tops. Now I'm going to draw the boots. So I want to make sure that these are all on the same angle there. Now this is the tricky part, getting the angle on the side of the boot. So I'm going to use a diagonal line again. So I'm going to come out a little bit here. And notice I don't want this line going to the bottom. I'm going to make a little bit of a triangle right here. See that little kind of air triangle? Then I'm going to curve. I'm going to round the top of that boot off. I'm going to angle this a little bit more, and then I'm going to round the bottom of the boot. Then once you have the body drawn in, you can do some finishing touches like curving the bottom of the jacket, making sure that the shorts are curved if you want to shade in with your pencil. Now the next part is I want to put in the grounding line. So I'm going to draw a line, hop over to the other side. The next part will be the puddle. So I'm going to come in front of the boot, the foot that I can see. And I'm just going to make kind of an organic shape, just a real curvy shape. And when I do this, my hand is going horizontal when I'm doing this. Okay, now my next step is I want to add some design work into my umbrella. So each section I'm going to have fun creating some designs. And when I'm creating design, I'm thinking pattern. So I'm going to keep repeating my patterns. Now would be a great time for you to pause the video, draw the body, the puddle, and the grounding line, add some design work into your umbrella, and if you'd like, you can add design work into the rain jacket, the shorts, or the boots. Then you can trace your artwork with a fine tip black Sharpie marker or a black colored pencil. And then the next step is to add some color and add some watercolor as well. Did you finish designing your umbrella and drawing your person, your puddle and grounding line? Now it is time to add some color. And as you can tell, I have added some color to mine. So I added some marker into the umbrella. I added some oil pastel into the person and a little bit into the puddle. And as you can tell, I used white oil pastel, but you could also use white crayon to create raindrops. And then when I was all finished with that, I added watercolor. If you would prefer to use colored pencils instead, you can do that. Or you can have fun like I did, mixing some of your art supplies. Now it's your turn to have some fun and add some color to your artwork. Well, that wraps up our spring-inspired art lesson. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I want you to always remember, when you are creating art, to relax, have lots of fun, and keep creating.